Okay, this is another one from Feli from Germany. My biggest culture shocks coming to America as a German. I've been on this kick about comparing the United States, really not America in general, but the United States to Germany, and found it quite interesting, quite fascinating. I'm kind of curious to see what this one's all about. So, my biggest culture shocks coming to America. Please click like, share, and subscribe for Feli from Germany. And please click like, share, and subscribe for Scott Dover's Interesting World. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
And welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Feli. I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I've been living here in Cincinnati, Ohio, on and off since 2016. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. Frohes neues Jahr. I hope you all slid well into the new year, as we say in Germany. Ich hoffe, ihr seid gut reingerutscht. Today is a special day, not just because this is my first video in 2022, but because
obviously this is a year ago, but that's quite all right.
4 years ago today, I uploaded my very first video on this channel. So today pretty much marks my channel's 4th birthday, and to celebrate that with you, I thought it would be cool to kind of redo my very first content video. So the video that I published on January 14th, 2018 was just like an introduction video, and then later that month I published the first video where I actually talked about cultural differences. It was called USA versus Germany, 3 biggest differences, and it was about the biggest culture shocks I experienced as a German coming to the US. It's honestly kind of hard to watch for me now for a number of reasons.
It shouldn't be hard to watch. Watching your old videos, you got to start somewhere, and you got to move on from there.
It's just a little cringe, but the topic is still relevant and something that I still talk about all the time here on my channel, but also with my friends and family. And of course, over the last 4 years, I've had so many new experiences. I've changed, and my view on that topic may have changed as well. So welcome to the 2022 version of USA versus Germany, 3 biggest differences.
And I'm kind of curious to see what they are. Especially she's been there. She's been here for 5 years instead of 4. This is a year ago for this video, but I think it's still relevant to this day. It's only been a year.
That it'll be a few more points than those 3 today. Let's start by talking about those 3 points that back in 2018 I apparently considered the biggest differences between Germany and the US. I mentioned that number 1, everything is bigger in the US, like stores, streets, or cars, for example. Number 2, Americans are more outgoing than Germans. They talk to strangers much more, do a lot of small talk, and also the customer service is much better, and people are generally friendlier to one another. And number 3, that Americans love to exaggerate and go all out on things.
Now, if I take those at a point-by-point basis, everything is bigger in the United States. Well, yeah, I guess you can say that, but when I was over in Germany, I didn't notice that. Maybe that's me. Let's talk about cars and things like that. Maybe houses. Again, that may be so. Americans are more outgoing. I found the Germans very outgoing, very friendly. Again, maybe it was because it was during the World Cup, and they wanted to put on their best face when you're visiting there. But I didn't. I thought the Germans were very outgoing and very friendly, but maybe just not as much as the United States. Americans are more. We are very enthusiastic people. We are. I mean, there's no question about that. But there's nothing. That's. Because I didn't. Those are 3 things that she notices coming from Germany to the United States. Okay, of the 3, I probably would say that number 2 is probably I would probably acknowledge a little bit more based on what I've heard from other people who've been to Germany before, or what people tell you when they compare Germans to Americans. But okay.
So how do I view those things today? I definitely still agree with what I said back then. Those points simply are some of the biggest differences between the 2 countries and cultures. But the longer you live in a place, the more you get used to things. And that's why some things that felt like these huge noticeable differences to me in the beginning now just feel normal. I totally get used to the size of things, for example, like how wide the streets are and how long it takes you to walk through a store here, or even the size of certain
Now that is one thing I just says on further reflection, and the stores in the United States. We have these big, massive stores like Walmart's and Target, and so forth. And the grocery stores, they're massive, they're huge, and compared to Germany, it was a little bit more intimate. You're in there; it's not as vast, not as wide, and I kind of like the smaller stores better than the bigger ones myself. But again, that's that's just an opinion of mine. The stores in Germany were all actually smaller. I did kind of notice that, and I did kind of enjoy that a little bit more than the United States with the big, vast stores.
Products or portions at restaurants. It's not like I'm not aware of it anymore. Like, I still know that that's all pretty big and that sometimes it's just wasteful and unnecessary, but I don't walk around every day thinking, oh, wow, what a big truck, or what the fuck, they sell their mayonnaise in buckets here? It's just become normal over time. Same.
Well, yeah, we do sell our mayonnaise in buckets over here. There are stores you can go to, wholesale stores where you can buy in bulk mustard, ketchup, and things like that are just absolutely massive. It would blow your mind away if you saw it.
Same goes for the whole exaggerating thing. Over time, I kind of just learned to understand Americans when they exaggerate and speak in superlatives or make crazy plans that they're never going to follow up on anyway. I basically learned to translate that for myself. Like, when Americans say something was amazing, it means it was good to me as a German. Or if they say that they can maybe get together on the weekend, it means probably not, and so on. Of course.
Yeah, Americans do that. I mean, when we say, "Oh wow, that's amazing," or something like that, sometimes we just, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's not, everything is not amazing, and and yeah, she is right. If we say we'll see about it or something, we generally, when it comes to the weekends, it doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to see them or something like that. It's just like we may have other things to do, or it's a nice way of saying, I really don't want to spend time with you on the weekend, so I'll say maybe. So that's just the way we do things in the United States. It may be different elsewhere. It probably is.
That's not true for every single person. These are just some examples that I've come across in the past, but Americans definitely often communicate differently than Germans. And what I said about Americans being friendlier to one another and being unapologetically enthusiastic at sports events, for example, that's just stuff that I really enjoy about the culture here. I mean, sometimes I'm still pretty German at heart and catch myself thinking, okay, we got it, Ashley. Your sorority is literally the most amazing and awesome organization in the whole wide world, and you're obsessed with your sorority sisters. Or, okay, no need to start a fist fight at the bar over a college football game. It's just a game. But no, all jokes aside, those things still sometimes stand out to me, but
I don't really encounter that a whole lot, nor have I really encountered that you occasionally encounter the person who just loves everything and you just accept it and you move on with your very. But I've never seen two guys want to get into a fight over a sporting event. At least not in my life. Now I know it happens. I've seen videos of it, so I know it happens. But I've never encountered that, and I've never wanted to get into a shouting match or a fist fight over whether I liked this team or that team. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It is just in the end just a game.
But mainly in a positive way that just brightens my mood. Now, as I said, over the last 4 years, I've also experienced new things, of course. I've been in new situations and have dealt with some new culture shocks, whether you want to call it that or not. One of those things is how wasteful this country is. I was aware of that in 2018, but over time, I've just seen it over and over again in so many.
I'm kind of interested to see what her definition of wasteful is.
Different parts of life that I notice it even more nowadays than I did when I first came here. Back then, I honestly just put it in the category of when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and as a visitor, I was just trying not to be super judgy about certain things. But now, 4 years later, I have become more judgmental about it. I see people produce so much unnecessary waste every day, and it often comes from a place of complacency and a lack of awareness. I could give you 100 examples, like when a friend goes up to the soda fountain at a fast food place and doesn't take their already used cup with them, and I ask, why don't you just use the cup you already have? And they say, oh, but the cups are free. The money often seems to be the only aspect of concern.
As far as that's concerned, one of the things that we do, I usually use the same cup. Okay, I am not someone who, if I get a cup, and I go and get a refill, my drink, that I go and get a new cup. Now there are some places where they actually ask that you do that. Like there are breakfast buffets where they say if you take the plate and you fill it up and you finish it, just leave it there. Somebody's going to collect it. Go get a new plate. That's what they ask you to do. But as far as going and getting a new, I don't see a whole lot of that. I'm sure there are people who do that, but I really don't see a whole lot of that. And I would, even if they do, call me crazy. I don't think it's that wasteful. I don't think that's something to get your pennies in a bunch over. It's just, again, I understand where she's coming from, but it's not something that's a big deal to me.
There, not if something is actually necessary and needed in the moment. And unfortunately, the circumstances here make it pretty hard not to fall into those patterns. I've definitely become more wasteful in the US too. This is just one example, but I try to bring my own shopping bags to the grocery store usually, but when I go get something without planning it or just forget the bags, I have to painfully walk.
Again, that's another thing that I don't understand. They have so many, in Ohio, where I go shopping, they have so many bags there to use that are very inexpensive and do a good job. I don't bring my own bags. I don't consider that to be wasteful. Again, that's me. Okay, have I brought bags? Yes, I have. Okay, sometimes if I know I'm going to the grocery store, I have it in my car. I just bring it in with me, and you do get rewarded for that. My cousin does it out in California because that's one of the things that they really do out there. And I don't have, again, it's I don't consider it too wasteful, but again, that's me. Okay, I'm different from you, so.
Watch the baggers at the store double bag everything and then put 3 items max in each bag, or like just put.
Yeah, you do see that. Okay, I have to give you that. That is wasteful. I don't do that. Okay, I mean, if I went to the grocery store with a bagger, I probably would get 7 or 8 bags full of stuff, but I generally stuff it in there because I know it can hold it, and I walk out of there with like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 bags at most. But yeah, I can see that.
Putting 1 loaf of bread in a bag by itself. And then I'm the weird customer that goes ahead, repacks the bags, because you can fit way more in those than people think, and then I tell the bagger to please use the rest of these for the next person, and they probably won't even do that. I mean,
no, they won't. And because, like I said, I worked in a grocery store, and they have most grocery stores have more bags than they know what to do with, and they're just happy to get rid of them. Okay, it's just that way. Okay, these are very cheap bags, but they're very strong bags, and like when I go to a grocery store, again, it's maybe different where you are, maybe different, and maybe it is wasteful, but yeah, she is right. It holds more. I generally, like I fill up as much as I can, but again, I don't consider that to be. Maybe she's changing my mind. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it's that big of a deal to not show up there with your bags and bag yourself and take it with you. Because look, if it, right next to me, it's not like I just throw them away. I reuse them. Okay, see, this is what I do with my old bags. I have a ton of them here, and I use them if I need to take stuff with me somewhere. I reuse them.
You should see the amount of plastic bags that people walk out of these stores with, and that's all unnecessary. And a few points that don't really make the situation any better are the lack of recycling options, the amount of disposable dishes that are used everywhere, or the amount of waste that one meal at a fast food place creates. It's similar with other sustainability topics, by the way. There's just not a lot of awareness here, but that would be too much for this video. Let's move on. Another cultural difference that I've become more aware over time, and that is how socially independent Americans are. It's kind of weird to explain, but even though Americans are easier to become friends with in my experience, they don't seem to feel responsible for one another as much as Germans do. As I said, it's really hard to explain, but in German friendships, you can usually always rely on each other and know that people go the extra mile for one another, whereas I found that here, people are a little bit more independent when it comes to that.
I'm not. Well, maybe we. I'm trying to think about this because my friends. I'll do anything for them. Okay, when they need me, I will help them out. I guess she's talking about that. Well, we are independent. There's no question about that. But it's not like we're not reliable, and we don't help each other. I'm kind of curious to hear more about this, because this is a one that I'm not aware of.
Which can be good and bad, depending on your preferences. Like, Americans often don't mind when their friend doesn't reach out for a while. Everyone lives their own life. Whereas in close friendships in Germany, I feel like you'd usually have to explain that somehow. It wouldn't just be whatever, like in the US sometimes. Or
I guess what she's talking about, like, I have my friend who, we don't talk for a week, okay? And not because we don't like each other or don't have anything interesting to say. It's because he works, what was it, till, during the day, and he comes home, he's tired, just wants to eat, watch TV, and go to bed. And that's pretty much the same thing. Now, we'll talk to each other, he called me on Wednesday, we had a great conversation. We're going to see each other today. But I don't know, is friendship in Germany more along the lines of where you're like talking every day, talking every other day, or literally, always seeing each other? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we are creatures of habit, and look, there are times when he's called me, not being aware that I'm out of the state. Okay, that I'm some other. I get a phone call. Hey, where are you gonna? Guess what? I'm in Washington. I'm in Washington right now. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, but I guess that must be what she's talking about. That you tell everybody everything. But sometimes we are independent.
Or last year I had a conversation with Josh and a couple German friends who also live in the US, and they talked about moving and how they showed up to their American friend's place to help them move at the time that they were told to, but the people moving weren't even home and hadn't told them because they didn't really expect their friends to just show up like that. And we all agreed that if we needed help moving, we'd probably rely on our German friends first.
Now that's something I've never heard of before, to be honest with you, where you say, hey, I'm moving, okay? Hey, we're coming over to help, and then I'm not there when they show up because I didn't think they were going to be there. That's something I've never heard of before. Usually when it comes to moving, whenever I've moved somewhere or somebody's moved, helped me out, they're always reliable. I've never had that experience. Not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I've never had that experience.
And wouldn't really count on our American friends all that much in that regard, because they'd probably text us last minute saying that they can only come for an hour now, or cancel altogether. I do sometimes like that Americans are more individualistic and independent in that sense, but it's definitely a cultural difference that takes a while to understand and adjust to. And one thing that's really started to get on my nerves recently is the way that professionals talk to clients sometimes. I'm not talking about customer service at a store or a restaurant, but rather when it comes to dealing with insurance agents or
yeah, I think I'm on her side on this one.
Internet provider, salespeople, accountants, or I just recently dealt with this, even lenders and contractors. I have so many stories here, but to summarize it, I'm surprised how in professional situations like the ones I just mentioned, I constantly get emails without a greeting. People don't give me a straight answer, but just beat around the bush and talk on and on with unnecessary explanations. People don't send me a proper invoice, but text me the amount and say to send the money on Venmo, or like internet providers trying to call me at night from their personal cell phones instead of just responding to my email. And of course, everyone always assumes you're on a first name basis, which I know is a cultural difference, and I usually like that, but not everything is always about being all buddy-buddy with each other, even though...
Yeah, I agree with her on this one. There are some times when I have people will call me by my first name when or treat me like I'm their best friend, instead of talking to me like they should be talking to me like I'm the customer, and I work I've worked in customer service before, okay, and I always refer to the individual as Mr. or Miss or Mrs., whatever they prefer. If I say Mr. and they don't want to be called Mr., they want to be called by their first name, fine. But yeah, I can tend to agree with her on this.
So I know that's one of the main sales strategies in the US, but when it comes to finding an internet provider, buying a house, taking out a mortgage, handling my taxes, and so on, I need straight answers to my questions. I want numbers, I want information, ideally in full sentences, and I want a proper invoice sent to my email address as a PDF. I guess you can't get the German out of me in that regard, but in those situations, I don't really care for the small talk. I want people that know what they're doing, can give me qualified answers to...
The funny thing is, they do know what they're doing, but they're probably trying to be friendly and think outside the box and try and treat your customer like make them feel special and everything like that. Well, sometimes that's not the way to go. Sometimes people just want a professional relationship and say, this is what we're going to do. Like you said, straight answers. Cut the BS. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This is when we're going to do it. This is how much it costs. This is the bottom line. Here's the invoice. Have a nice day. You go your way. I go my way. I tend to agree with her on this.
To my questions and communicate with me professionally. And to all of you who are in the middle of writing a comment saying that not everyone is like that in the US, yes, I'm sure that's true, and I have had some good experiences too, but it's just something that I've never experienced in Germany a single time. If anything, people are too formal and quick to the point.
Well, you've never experienced that in Germany. I guess this is, culture shocks coming to America. You're not in Germany, okay? So again, but again, I tend to agree with her on that. There are people who, in professional situations, who act less than professional.
Point there. Whereas here, it's happened so many times that it's hard to keep count, honestly. I know this sounds a little like the arrogant European, but I sometimes feel like I'm talking to a 12-year-old in those situations.
Well, the arrogant European, I don't think you're, well, I need to experience more European, because I never thought the Europeans were arrogant. I mean, whenever I talked to anybody, and I talk to people from Europe quite often, they don't come across as arrogant. Again, these aren't bad complaints. I don't agree with everything, but these aren't bad complaints.
Now, I also often get asked if I experience culture shock when coming back to the US after a trip to Germany. And I actually just came back from Germany last week because I spent Christmas and New Year's Eve with my family. By the way, if you're interested in what those days usually look like in Germany, I recommend checking out my video on Christmas traditions and this one on German New Year's Eve. But overall, my answer to that is no. I don't really experience culture shock anymore when I travel back and forth. It was different in the beginning. Like, even when I traveled back to Germany, I would have reverse culture shock and think, wow, I never noticed how clean Germany is, or wow, there are bikes everywhere. But over time, I think my brain just got used to switching countries and cultures and kind of saved both places with...
That's ironic. My first reaction in Germany was not how clean it was, but that's what she said there. I'm kind of curious. I didn't have that feeling at all. But, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it was filthy or dirty or one of the worst places I've ever been to. But I didn't notice, of the words I would use to describe Germany, I mean, I would say efficient. I thought the German people were friendly, and I thought everything was pretty straightforward. But I can't say that cleanliness was one of the first things that came to mind.
With their individual...
Please forgive me, Germans, if I just offended you. I wasn't trying to. I just thought hearing her say that was kind of surprising.
Features as two parallel existing realities, and whenever I fly back and forth now, things don't feel foreign at all. It always feels like I was just there yesterday. It feels like having two homes, and sometimes I'm in home number one with all the people and customs that come with it, and sometimes I'm in home number two. However, the first few days when I'm back in the US, my brain does usually notice a couple things. Like how much personal space people here give each other at a public place when walking past someone or standing in line.
This is something I've heard about before. Okay, I want to let her continue.
Or how here in the Midwest, people always say, "Excuse me," when they have to get by you, even when there's a lot of space between you. In Germany, however, people will just touch your shoulder when walking by and not say anything, or walk up right in front of you to grab something out of the shelf without even acknowledging you. I also usually notice the small talk and the friendliness as soon...
Yeah, in America, you generally don't do things like that. You generally wait your turn. In fact, when I was at the grocery store, I was going to get some milk, and there was a lady there just staring right in front of the refrigerator where she was going to, trying to make a decision. And I don't just walk up there and right next to her and just grab over her shoulder or just invade her personal space and grab what I want and go on my way and don't even acknowledge her. That would be considered rude in the United States. I basically just waited till she made her decision. She makes it. She moves on. Then I go and somebody's behind me. They wait for me to make my turn.
As soon as I'm back on American soil. That always makes me smile. One thing that really surprised me this time was when I took my first shower last week after getting back, and I was like, wow, it smells like a swimming pool in here. The thing is that that's not new. Like, compared to tap water in Germany, tap water in the US does have a pretty strong chlorine smell. It took me a while to get used to that when I first moved here, but now I really don't notice it anymore. The water just smells and tastes normal to me. Which is why I was so surprised that it stood out to me so much this time. I don't know what was up with that. And another thing that stood out to me more this time...
I guess it depends on where you are. When I lived in a place where it used well water, and that had a bigger odor than anything else. But no, I don't notice what she's talking about. But again, when I was in Germany, maybe she got a point there. Maybe she just made a point, and I just didn't even realize it.
Was how this is really not a country for pedestrians. I mean, that's old news too, but I walked a lot during my time in Munich, and when I went on a walk here a few days ago, I always had to make sure that I'm going somewhere with a sidewalk, and then I crossed this huge street and the pedestrian light just didn't turn green forever, but it didn't really matter because I was the only pedestrian there anyway.
That is true. That is true. This is not a place for pedestrians. A lot of people, well, if you ever saw, there was a movie called LA Story with Steve Martin, and this basically sums it up. Not all of the United States is like this, but there's a scene where he's, I guess, leaving his house and he's going to visit somebody, and he gets into his car and he drives 5 houses down, then he parks the car and gets out. Okay, we're not like that, but we tend to drive more than we walk.
So that is my 2022 update on American culture shocks. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I forgot to mention, and I hope it wasn't too negative in this video, but I feel like the positive things just don't stand out to me as much anymore because I just appreciate them and I just got used to them so much. But if you would like to hear more positive things about the US, what I like about this country, why I like to live here, then check out this video. Now, I briefly mentioned reverse culture shock when going back home to Germany, and I was thinking about maybe making a video about that topic as well. So what do you guys think? Would you be interested in hearing a few stories of what shocked me when I came home to Germany after my first stay in the US, and which things stand out to me now? Let me know in the comments if I should make a video about that.
Okay.
Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope that 2022 is treating you well so far.
2022 treated me well, and 2023 so far so good. I hope I didn't offend anybody either. It's not what I said. I just react to what she said. I haven't seen this video before. This is the first time I'm watching it. And again, I do, like I said, I do enjoy hearing these things from a German perspective about the United States. Don't agree with everything, but I'm not supposed to. Okay, I've lived here all my life, so I'm going to have opinions from my own experiences. And like I said, the week or 10 days that I was in Germany, had a huge influence on me, which is why I'm doing a lot of these videos comparing the United States with Germany right now. But, please click like, share, and subscribe from Feli from Germany. Please click like, share, and subscribe for Scott Stova's Interesting World. And I'll do more of these. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day.